there, my name is Jamie, and I'm a former high school teacher. I'm genuinely looking forward to sharing some insight into the iLit ELL curriculum with you. Before we jump into the essential work, I'll take a moment to share something slightly off topic. One of the things I love most in this world is seeing live theater. The anticipation, the way a show captures your attention, the story it tells. One of my more recent shows was the musical Dear Evan Hansen. Evan is a high school student who struggles with social anxiety. As I watch, I always think about my colleagues because I feel like we can all readily identify with students that expend so much energy just to fit in. There's this pivotal song that ends the first act, and the searing lyrics stayed with me long past intermission. Now, I'm not going to sing for you. You can absolutely thank me later, but I will ask you to follow along with me. Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear, like you could fall and no one would hear? I wonder often how many times our students feel that way. I especially consider how often our students who come to us with so much and need to be supported in learning English feel that way. But let's get back to those lyrics. Well, let that lonely feeling wash away. Maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay. 'Cause when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you can reach out your hand, and you will be found. We all know that feeling when a student connects with content, with another student, with a text that resonates with them. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look around. You will be found. You will be found. For what it's worth, I don't know that I was entirely off topic. It does just take me a minute to sometimes get on topic. I believe students all over this map are found by educators who give them just what they need, who support them, who reach out to them, who challenge them, who find them. We designed iLit ELL with that in mind. Today we'll explore tools that will support students as they grow in command of the English language. We'll explore texts of all genres that appeal to students, and hopefully, through this, they'll find out a bit more about who they are. They will be found. Before we jump in together, I'll share my genuine thanks for seeing students and helping them grow, for the long hours, the late nights, and the early mornings. But most importantly, for finding students and helping them find out more about their true selves. Let's get started. Whenever my district made a new purchase, I always wanted to see the student materials first. Almost every training I went to started with pedagogy, then an overview of the teacher materials, and then finally the student materials. But I always knew if I saw the student materials first, and I thought my kids would like them, I was absolutely willing and excited to dig in. So with that in mind, I'm going to take us down a different path. I want you to see exactly what your students will see, and then we'll take a look at how you, the teacher, make it happen. Students will have access to over 3,000, yes, 3,000 texts in the iLit digital library. We know engaged readers are motivated readers, and motivated readers love to read. This library offers a multitude of genres, from novels to poetry, fiction to nonfiction, classic to modern texts that mirror student lives. Moreover, texts are translated into 47 languages, an outstanding support for our students strengthening their English. Each day, students will have a time to read component of their lesson and can pick up right where they left off in their library selection. As they read, students can annotate, taking any notes they find relevant. Those notes are stored and can be accessed by the student anytime they launch their book. iLit helps students keep track of their progress, monitoring word count, pages read, and total books finished. At the end of each book, they will have a chance to review. Those reviews help the system recommend future reads, as well as let other students know what they liked. It's essentially Netflix for readers. As students engage in their daily work, they will work with you on daily vocabulary activities. Students will often complete a poll so you know exactly what they're thinking. And then there will be an opportunity for direct instruction of a specific vocabulary word. They will then have an opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge. All of this is done from students' individual devices. There's an element of connectedness and privacy all at once. Students can convey what they know. You can know and understand what they know. And yet their opportunity to learn and grow is consistently preserved. Students will also engage with you around the vocabulary utilized in the lesson for that day. Students may then engage in a read aloud, think aloud with you. Sometimes they may have a classroom conversation around a recently read text. These texts are intended to be highly engaging. They'll have graphic comic strips interspersed throughout, magazine-type articles, as well as novels and nonfiction pieces. Students will notice the Assignments tab at the bottom of their student screen. They will be able to complete a variety of assignments assigned by you. We're going to jump into one of those signature assignments for now, the Interactive Reader. Interactive readers are assigned to students based on their identified reading level. Students in a given class will have text specific to their needs. You'll notice that this student is reading an informational piece, Video Games, the Good and the Bad. The text can be read to students in authentic narration. Let's take a listen.
Studying video games. Imagine going back in time, or going forward into the future. The latest technology is at your fingertips. You can travel to other worlds. You can fight epic battles. You can cast magical spells. You can do almost anything. Welcome to the world of video games. As you may know, most young people in the United States play video games. Video games can be fun. Still, many adults worry that kids spend too much time playing them. They worry that video games are harmful.
But the real power is in the interactivity. As students read, they will be prompted to complete various reading checkpoints. And once complete, they receive immediate feedback. These checkpoints may ask readers to identify sentences that support a main idea. They may offer opportunities to examine vocabulary more closely. the opportunities here are pretty vast. When students complete an interactive reader, they will be prompted to write a summary. And then they will receive immediate feedback with respect to the strength of their piece of writing. Literacy teachers, I'm going to give you a moment here. Automatic feedback to help students enhance their writing. Students will review, edit, and receive feedback multiple times before submitting to you for a final pass. And a highlight reel, well, it really wouldn't be complete without showing you one last key highlight. You'll notice the Connect button at the bottom of the screen. Students can receive encouragement, prompting, or feedback from you within the system. They can see those words, that praise, each time they click on Connect. We'll take just a few moments for you to meet some students who've used iLit in districts across the country. In fact, they say it best.
iLit is probably the best thing that's ever happened to me.
iLit is a compact way of reading multiple books that you enjoy.
It doesn't just help me with my reading, it also helps me with my writing by helping me make sure that I have everything spelled correctly and by helping me make sure that everything I'm saying is making sense.
Before I used iLit, I wasn't really reading. The most I would read is, social media here and there. But now with iLit being at my fingertips, I can read whenever I'm not doing anything else.
The feature that I use the most is probably the assignments or the journal because we write in our journal a lot.
It was a lot easier for me to focus on the story when I read it on iLit rather than a hardcover book.
I love iLit because of all the books and the environment.
I like iLit because it's a wide variety of books all at your fingertips instead of carrying the physical copies. It's all right there in your backpack.
There's such a wide variety of books in iLit that I couldn't help myself but read every book I could.
Okay, who's ready in this room?
Ready? When they first gave me iLit, it was difficult and confusing. I really don't read or write on computers, so it was very challenging for me.
Two important things happened on our 7th day in Eden. The first is that Bean learned to play a game called chess.
There's a speaker that helps you read it. You can even put it in Spanish and translate the words to Spanish. It also has a notebook where you can write notes. I talk really fast and I might skip words, but goes from word to word. So I know this is a word I need to say, this is a word I need to say. It's really helpful in my reading. When Bean asks if she can play chess too, he seems happy that she's interested. Why don't you play with your foster brother? iLit's definitely helped me with new words and new vocabulary and how to make correct sentences. If I spelled a word wrong or a sentence wrong, it has that red line that tells me hey, you need to fix this. My name is Robert and Learn iLit's helping me become a better writer.
Perfect.
This was the first year I used iLit and I really like it because it shows you how to pronounce the words, and if you don't know the word, you can highlight it and click on it and hear it speak.
All of their games end in what they call a standoff, which means
It also can read to you, which I like because I'm not a great reader, so I use that and follow it along with my eyes, and it helps me. When I grow up, I want to be an actor. You have to know how to read a script and how to communicate with other people.
What book are you reading?
First on the Ground. I'm Andrea, and iLit's helping me become a better reader.
So how does iLit support you in empowering Robert to grow in his writing ability? Or in Andrea making the connection to a future career goal and her reading skills in your classroom? Well, it first does so with a daily structure that you and your students can come to expect from day one and week one. The consistent iLit ELL routines in a 45-minute lesson are made up of time to read, vocabulary, read aloud, think aloud, classroom conversation, whole group, work time, and the wrap. Time to Read offers students the opportunity to jump into their choice text from the iLit library. In the vocabulary routine, you'll work through academic, conversational, or selection vocabulary that students will later encounter in texts in the lesson. In the Read Aloud, Think Aloud, you have the opportunity to model an anchor text and make thinking visible as a reader. Ample texts within iLit ELL are also recorded by professional narrators, so your students have access to other voices. During the classroom conversation routine, students will engage in a discussion around the lesson's text. The whole group routine focuses on a specific skill or strategy-based instruction. Work time opens the door for individual or partner work, where you can differentiate assignments based on student need. And finally, the wrap-up. Every lesson has a dedicated opportunity to bring closure for the day's lesson and set the stage for a future lesson. A cornerstone of iLit ELL is in its gradual release design. The design is communicated in the lesson notes for each day, helping you make decisions about where to push and where to pull, where to allow students the chance to have a deeper discussion, and where to model for them effective reading or writing skills. You'll notice as you land on your Teach iLit homepage that you have a navigation bar at the top and bottom of the screen. Notably at the top, you can select the unit and the appropriate state or national frameworks. In this case, we have the WIDA Standards Framework selected. The bottom navigation pane allows you to take a look at the teacher notes for the unit and lesson in the Planner tab. The Lessons tab will allow you to focus more deeply on the routines for the lesson that day. The Assignments tab gives you the option to assign specific assignments to students or groups of students. The Performance tab offers data to help assess student performance and know who and where to further support. And you also have access to the library. Whew, I know that was a lot to take in, but remember, this is just the bird's eye view. You'll have a chance to dig into all of this during your initial training. You'll begin your iLit ELL experience early in the academic year by administering the Newcomer Screener. This screener will help offer insight into whether students need the entire Newcomer unit. Those who answer fewer than 10 questions correctly should begin with the very first lesson of the Newcomer module. Those who answer 10 to 14 questions correctly should begin with Lesson 11. Those who answer 15 to 22 questions correctly should begin with Lesson 17. And students who score high on the Newcomer Screener, answering 23 to 25 questions correctly, can safely begin instruction in Unit 2. All of this is in your teacher notes, so no need to jot it down right now. The Newcomer module has about 14 weeks of instruction, or 70 lessons. These lessons begin with objectives scaffolded appropriately for those new to learning English. Students listen and learn to pronounce letters in early lessons, move on to studying vowel sounds, and eventually progress to listening and analyzing conversations. The Newcomer module is organized with the same consistent routines students will engage in throughout their iLit ELL experience. We'll jump into a future lesson in Unit 2 right after the Newcomer module and walk through what it looks like to make the learning visible. We're going to take a look at Unit 2, Lesson 4 of Level G. You'll notice on the Planner tab we have a great deal of instructional information for this lesson. The student objectives are listed. A brief description of the lesson is included in the overview. I always say that this helps paint the big picture of the lesson, before we get into the details. I've toggled the standards at the top to take a look at how this lesson aligns to the Florida standards. But remember, there are many included state standards, as well as the WIDA standards framework alignment. You'll click Teach and notice the lesson opens with the vocabulary routine, where you can poll students on their familiarity with the word calloused. You'll see the words project and send survey. Project allows you to show on a screen or interactive whiteboard. Send survey allows you to send to students' devices to elicit their response. You'll notice that it prompts you to teach the term at this point by asking students to use the picture and sentences to give context. You'll then notice it has supporting questions for various levels of student response: no response, an incorrect response, or perhaps an incomplete response. You'll notice broadcast, project, and expand at the bottom of the screen. Broadcast allows you to push this image out to all student devices. Project allows you to push it to the screen or interactive whiteboard in your classroom. And expand allows you to enlarge the image on your teacher device. Once you've spent time probing student thinking and offering some explicit instruction, you'll have the opportunity to assess their knowledge of the term, again by projecting and sending the survey. To close out the vocabulary routine, you'll spend a bit of time introducing your students to the academic vocabulary that will be later in the lesson. You'll then launch the Read Aloud, Think Aloud routine of this lesson. Before the lesson, you can share a bit of background information about the Navajo code talkers, and then walk students through what it means to visualize as a reader. You'll notice that small PD bubble in the upper right corner of the screen. In this case, you're offered insight into what PSYOP components will be featured in this lesson routine. You can then launch the text by clicking Read This Book. Now, once launched, you can absolutely read it aloud to students. However, I'd like to offer you an opportunity to hear this first part of the story, narrated by one of our incredible, authentic authors.
Listen, my grandchildren. Grandchildren, you asked me about this medal of mine. There is much to be said about it. This small piece of metal holds a story that I was not allowed to speak for many winters. It is the true story of how Navajo Marines helped America win a great war. There is much that I must remember to speak for this medal, to tell its story as it should be told. I must remember not only the great secret with which I was trusted, but also all that happened to me and those like me. That is a lot, but I think that I can do it well enough. After all, I was expected to remember, as were the other men trained with me. The lives of many men depended entirely on our memories.
As you progress through the text, you'll notice the Press Stop Here button. The teaching notes prompt you to model visualization for the students. In this instance, focusing on the vivid words the author used to describe his mother. The second reading checkpoint allows you to dig into the earlier identified vocabulary word, calloused. And a further checkpoint allows us to utilize more of the text to visualize the home of the grandfather. You'll then facilitate a discussion with your students in the classroom conversation piece. There are both discussion notes behind the Facilitating Discussion button, as well as notes to further engage in the PD bubble. The next routine is the work time, where students will receive a few assignments from you. You'll navigate to your Assignments tab and note the vocabulary, practice, and extra practice assignments. Throughout work time, you may also consider pulling a small group of students for targeted support. You'll notice small group suggestions in the app with detailed reteaching opportunities. Remember, the assignments land on the student's assignment page automatically. And if they finish early, they can jump back into their library book or work on an interactive reader assignment. The customization opportunities here are differentiated in a way that each student can get exactly what they need. As with each day, the wrap-up routine allows for some closure for the day's learning. Today, students will summarize what they've read so far in Code Talkers and make predictions about what may happen next. You'll close today's learning and you'll set the stage for tomorrow. When we spoke with your district, they asked us to give you a taste of iLit ELL. This might have felt like more of a 5-course dinner, but I promise there's more to learn, to experience, and to dig more deeply into. You'll continue this learning with initial training in August of 2021, led by one of our education specialists who have helped districts across the country implement for several years. You'll also have a dedicated specialist who will be specific to Broward County for the 2021-2022 school year. I'd encourage you to lean on them as a partner in this endeavor. All of our success is grounded in student success. For now, I hope you enjoy the summer you have left and take some time to wind down after a truly unforgettable year. I'm hopeful you find your own inspired literacy this summer, the book you've been wanting to read and can't wait to dig into. Thanks so much for joining me.